to Pesach, and therefore we have to prepare ourselves for this holiday, which needs more depth and preparation than any other Chag. I've got to mention that we do have a solar eclipse this Monday night, which happens to fall, if I'm not mistaken, around Erev Rosh Chodesh, right, Nissan. So we know we're right in the zone of this. I want to just talk for a couple of minutes because it is uncanny where it falls and why it falls and our relationship to the sun and the moon, because the two are interacting with each other in a very big way, which hasn't happened for decades. It will not happen, as far as I remember hearing, for decades either. Okay, so what is the Jewish view on the sun and the moon? There's a lot to say on this, and it's very tied into the first mitzvah given to the Jewish people as a whole. We know there were mitzvot before Har Sinai that were given to individuals like Avraham Avinu, right? Had the mitzvah of Brit Milah. We know that Adam Rishon and Chava had Pruruvu. According to many people, that is the first mitzvah in the Torah. However, given to Am Yisrael, Klal Yisrael, even before we got to Har Sinai, while we even still in Egypt, was HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem. That is the mitzvah to establish a calendar. That is the first mitzvah given to the Jewish people to establish a calendar. What does that mean? So that means up to that point, we followed the seasons. From the days of Noach, there was a change of the seasons, and we had followed a seasonal flow. What do the seasons mean? You follow the sun. The sun and the lack thereof gives us the seasons. However, that changed for the Jewish people partially while we were in Mitzrayim, and we were told that there is now a mitzvah. There is now a mitzvah to start to count the months. Count them according to the lunar cycle, according to the moon, or as I like to say, we the Jewish people, from Mitzrayim, leaving Egypt, became loonies, or moonies, if you will, actually, as we start to track the lunar cycle. And so, from that point on, and why would that be the first mitzvah of all the mitzvot to give Am Yisrael and Klal Yisrael? I hear you want to tell us that Shabbat should be the first mitzvah that actually was also downloaded before we got to Har Sinai, about a week or so before in Marah. So there were mitzvot that were given to us earlier, but this one, it must be so important that we are given this mitzvah of creating a calendar of now tracking the moon. And so precisely that is what we do. We start to follow the moon cycle as it waxes and wanes. We still hear those words? When I grew up, so we refer to it as waxing and waning. I think waxings get bigger and waning is smaller. Is that right? I forgot them. Okay, fine. Anyway, so that exactly is what we want to do. We want to follow the moon. Why? Why has the moon become so special? There's a lot to say just on this one point, but I'll mention that the Jewish people are compared to the moon, right? We are compared to the moon. Why? In what sense? Because sometimes we are very, very visible, and we are loud and out there, and people see us, and they're in fear of us, and there's tremendous kavod shemayim by seeing us. That's when we're at our apex. And sometimes things get difficult, and we are merely a crescent in the sky, but we're still there. And the light of the moon is still there. Now, we know that Moshe and Yehoshua were compared to the sun and the moon. Moshe Rabbeinu is compared to the strong, shining sun, says the Gemara. Yehoshua was merely a reflection of Moshe Rabbeinu. And we know that the light of the moon, there is no light on the moon, right? It's a big rock. However, the light of the moon is a reflection of the sun. So too, just as Yehoshua was a reflection of the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu, but not as great as him, because he wasn't as great a prophet as Moshe Rabbeinu, he reflected his greatness. So too, we, Am Yisrael, are a reflection of the light, Kivyachol, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of God, and the Torah, which is Orah. Torah is Orah, it's light. And so we reflect the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, just as the moon reflects the sun, so too we the Jewish people reflect the sun as we are the moon. So we start to track this lunar cycle. Having said that, the transfer from solar to lunar was not exclusive, and it was not complete. Meaning, although we are now following the moon to figure out when our holidays begin, it's very important. If you don't track the moon, you don't know when the month begins. You don't know when the month begins, then you don't know when the middle of the month is, and you don't have any Jewish holidays. You know what I'm saying? So the whole thing becomes obsolete. If you're not tracking the moon, you don't know when stuff appears. So the moon cycle channeling is not just to follow the moon to know when the dates of the month are, it's to figure out when to keep the Chagim. And the first Chag that we have now, because there was a change, that the new month was no longer Tishrei, as it is for the entire world, listen very carefully, it's now Nissan. Nissan is going to be, and is, the first month of counting. Actually, the Rosh Chodesh Nissan is actually one of the 4 new years. The Mishnah tells us in the Jewish calendar, in the Jewish cycle. So listen carefully. Now Nissan is the first month, and actually the Torah does not use the Lashon of Nissan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz. Those names of the months appeared actually for the first time in Megillat Esther. That's why it refers to Nissan as the first month, although it gives it a number, month number 1, because the Torah refers to the months of the year the same way it refers to the days of the week with numbers. Nissan is actually month 1, Iyar 2, and so on and so on and so on. And so we are going to follow the months by number, and the first month is Nissan. So Nissan now represents the beginning of the Jewish people. That's why it's month number 1. For the rest of the world, Tishrei is when they get judged, or actually we're all judged, and that's the first month. That's the creation of mankind, which happened on Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah. However, my dear friends, Nissan is the beginning and the birth of the Jewish people. So that's this new explosion of Am Yisrael and Klal Yisrael on the world stage as not Ivrim, not Hebrews, but as Am Yisrael. Okay, let's get to the main crux of the discussion today. And it goes like this. Listen very carefully, my dear friends. It goes like this. When it comes to the sun and the moon, as I mentioned, we have an eclipse coming up. And the moon is going to obstruct the sun. These are simanim. These are signs. These are signs. The sun is a sign. The moon is a sign. We, the Jewish people, are more related to the moon than we are to the sun. But, and this is very important, Pesach must appear in the springtime. Chodesh Ha'aviv. Chodesh Ha'aviv. Now we got a problem. If we just follow the moon cycle, there is an 11-day and a bit difference between the lunar cycle and the solar cycle. So what would happen if we just follow the moon, like lahavdil, the Muslims? The Muslims just follow the moon. What would happen, as does happen to them, is that their holidays are actually going to travel which way through the year? Backwards. Very, very good. Every year, 11 days, 11 days. And actually, lahavdil, Ramadan travels backwards through the year and makes its way through the year. We cannot allow that to happen, because Pesach, the initial holiday of the Jewish people, must appear in the springtime, Chodesh Aviv. So although we follow the moon, we keep in line with the seasons. The seasons are very, very important to us. Why is the season so? Who cares what the season is? If it's sunny, if it's raining, it's important for a number of reasons. First of all, listen like this. Pesach represents freedom. Zman cherutenu, freedom. And so, what is the season of the year that represents freedom? Springtime. That's what we saw. Everyone wants to start making all these protests to go free in the springtime. Why? Winter's too cold. I'm not going to go out. Summer's too hot. I also don't want to go out. I want to sit inside my AC. So what are we left with? We're left with Chodesh Aviv, the springtime. That's why you have the Arab Spring. People want to go. That's why all the fruits and the trees go free in the springtime. And so, the Jewish people, we follow the lunar cycle, we follow the moon, but the spring is speaking to us. It's saying it's time to go free. Free? Free from what? Free from whatever is holding you back. You need to go free from slavery that you find yourself in.